Jordan Peterson and everyone's favorite fail son. It's Jimmy Concepts, baby. James Lindsay, Jimmy Concepts. If you don't know who this is, don't worry, you could bully him.
The world, or God, demands that you constantly humble yourself in front of what's happening to you. You know, right now, they get this fires and the smoke. Well, guess what? Everybody in Washington, D.C., New York City has to deal with that. Reality has imposed itself. You have to humble yourself before what's happening around you and make adjustments accordingly. You don't get to just assert, well, I think the world should be this way. I think God should honor my sacrifice.
Yeah, right.
I think I should have the tower, however it is.
No, if you're sacrificing.
James Lindsay is now talking about what God wants with Lobster Man Jordan Peterson. Fucking-credible.
Sacrifices aren't being honored. The first question.
The way that these people have to crawl back to religion again every single time they turn conservative. Wouldn't you know it? It's almost as if they're all fucking religious.
Question to ask is,
I wonder if there's any correlation whatsoever.
what have you done wrong?
God, he's so fucking smart. Holy shit, this guy must be really smart. Did you see how art that was? He did art that was... Whoa, he's thinking there? Sheesh, real thinker we have.
Hello, everyone watching and listening.
Let's see how much of this we can get through before we blow our brains out.
Today I'm speaking with author, mathematician, and political commentator Dr. James Lindsay. We discuss Marxism, how it evolved from a singular ideology into a genus, spawning many oppressor/oppressed dogmas across modern culture. Wow. Ideas such as equity, critical race theory, queer theory.
Ha! Equity. Fucking losers. Who would want equity?
We trace these
Pussies.
sub-Marxist doctrines back past fundamental narrative into the theological realm and detail their utility in, justifying the acquisition of power. We also discuss the grievance studies affair, of which Dr. Lindsay was a co-author. So, James, I kind of feel like I know you. I follow you on Twitter and watch all the trouble you cause, or some of it anyways, and we did do...
James Lindsay blocked me on Twitter. I forget exactly why. So did Jordan Peterson. I forget exactly why. But yeah, they're cowards and pussies, and they don't like free speech, in my opinion.
A podcast
they don't like my free speech.
A number of years ago with Helen and Peter, and but I actually don't know you, and so let's start with that. I'd like to know a little bit more about you.
Let's just see if we can find a way to like James Lindsay. Anything about him.
And let's let everybody who's watching and listening know too. So, let's say, what are you, when you're not causing trouble on Twitter, what are you involved in at the moment?
I think causing...
What does your actual life look like?
It's causing trouble on the road is what I'm involved in.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, Twitter overlaps with the road because it lives in my pocket. So.
Say something nice, Dr. Randy. God damn it. I respect that James Lindsay has put out those videos of himself doing the mall sword dances. If I type in James Lindsay sword, I would never let this see the light of day. Hell no. Hell no. Yeah, this is just oh yeah, wait, he fucking Lincoln incognito window. There we go. You can't block me then, bitch. This is just insane stuff. Wow. It's a big sword. He's doing so good. Oh, he's so good. No, stop it. Where's the one where he hits himself? Anyway, it's just fucking pathetic. Is it this one? Fuck. He blocked me, dude. Fuck you.
So, that's convenient, but I do a lot of speaking. I speak a lot.
Same energy. Is it Star Wars Kid, dude? Star Wars Kid! Yep, it's the same exact energy. Actually, fuck that. Star Wars Kid, million times cooler. A million times cooler. Fuck yeah. Get it. Amazing. Yes. Sheesh. I could watch Star Wars Kid forever. Star Wars Kid fucks.
I had the privilege this year of getting to speak all over the world. I got to speak at the EU Parliament. That was great.
Right.
And because it's really funny, everybody's telling me that, and I think it's true. This is the best public speech you've ever given, Paul. And so what a setting to hit the one that you hit.
Congratulations
good, right?
on that front.
Well, it turns out that the night before, it's a silly story. The night before, I had.
He's please, Daddy Peterson, I need you to accept me immediately. I need to brag about myself. Oh, someone told me that was the best speech I've ever given. Please, Mr. Jordan.
At a smaller meeting in a restaurant with a number of the MEPs from different countries, and I'm trying to talk. And I tend to be humorous and speak quickly, and this is just my style. And then
I tend to be humorous and speak quickly. Yeah.
all my jokes were landing flat, and I got kind of awkward, and I realized they don't speak English.
Oh, that's why.
So English is not even, they're not even all
that's
fully
particularly
fluent.
rough on the joke front.
So then I had to start slowing down, and I got really conscious of slowing down and enunciating and trying to use simpler terminology to talk about, neo-Marxism and postmodernism. It's very difficult. So I gave this speech, and it just happened to work out. But I've had this privilege. So, 175 flights I took last year to give you a feel for how much on the road there is, getting around, meeting mostly with grassroots organizations, some bigger political stuff or legislators, but mostly moms and dads that are trying to do something in this country and around Canada as well to try to change.
Are you mostly in North America when you're traveling?
Overwhelmingly just in the U.S.
Translation, my jokes are so bad I have to never stop or people will know how much I suck. That's right.
Overwhelmingly.
How did the EU invitation come about?
They reached out to me, so I'm not exactly sure how they...
It's 4th of July weekend, so there's fireworks going off, and Darwin is in my office scared. Hey, bud, do you need to be closer? You good? All right.
They got connected with me, but one of the MEPs, they put together a conference at the EU Parliament to talk about...
Was that in Brussels?
It was in Brussels.
It was in Brussels.
Yeah.
Were you in their terrible building in Brussels?
I was. And with the
huge
very...
airport?
Yeah, a huge airport with... you've been, right?
Yeah.
So you know that...
Ultimate Tower of Babel.
So there's that park back behind it that has the ostriches. You know about these statues. So there's a small park. It's, not very big.
I don't give a shit. The EU speech... Why woke Marxism?
But what do you think you hit on that made it so attractive as a speech?
Well, the question of the whole conference, which is a three meeting session that I was at the first one, it was what is woke and what does it mean for Europe? And so
wow, you had a big speech in front of a bunch of white guys. Amazing. That sounds riveting. That sounds like riveting stuff. These guys in their little circles. I
tried to give, in a sense, a genealogy of woke. And actually, a taxonomy is more accurate. I started off by saying, well, I think that woke is, in fact, Marxism that's evolved to attack the West. And the techniques it's using are reminiscent of Mao's Cultural Revolution. And so you can say that it's Marxist or Maoist. But then I said, we can't understand that unless we understand Marxism in a bigger way.
I would love for them to understand any Marxism.
If we focus on his economic analysis and capital, we miss the entire picture. If we take a step back and say that he outlined an entire theory of man and the world and our behavior in it and the meaning of life and purpose, telos for our being, which is to transform the world into the socialist utopia, to advance history to its intended end.
The socialist utopia. Yeah, so, what do they think the goal... I want to ask conservatives, what do you strive for? What's the goal of humanity? Because I think, personally, in society specifically, why do we structure? I think it's to maximize well-being and minimize toil, right? Maximize well-being, minimize toil. That's essentially it. We want to collectivize our efforts so that we can, to minimize the toil. I think that's good, right?
Then you can see that the particular mode of analysis becomes fungible. If it's economic analysis for Marx, then you get classical Marxism. If it's race analysis for the critical race theorists, it's almost, you have to massage around the edges, but it's almost the exact same architecture.
Well, that's certainly what it seemed to me to be. You know, one of the things that's been disturbing, I suppose, on the gaslighting front is whenever I draw a relationship between postmodernism and neo-Marxism, first of all, people say two things that I don't know what I'm talking about, which, by the way, is rarely the case.
Rarely the case. I mean, he really doesn't know what he's talking about when he talks about Marxism. He hasn't. Every time he talks about it, it's just like fear-mongering right-wing bullshit. Every fucking time.
And second, that, you know, that's a conspiratorial misreading of the relationship, that there's nothing to, that postmodernism has nothing to do with Marxism. And, you know, I've taken that criticism seriously because it happens a lot. I think, well, you know, is there some manner in which I have this wrong? And then I go back as much as I can to the source documents, including Foucault, and I think, and Derrida, and I think, well, they said they were Marxists. That seems like, you know, proof. And the entire intellectual milieu at that time in France was Marxist, including people who should have known better, like Jean-Paul Sartre. So it's like that was the water in which those particular fish swam. And the postmodernists, when they themselves say that their intellectual effort is tending in the Marxist direction or is an extension of Marxism, I'm pretty much inclined to believe them. And so I don't understand how this notion that those two concepts are separate has come about. Do you have any idea about that?
I do. I've thought tremendously on this question, and I believe I have an answer. And
philosophy bros were the worst thing to happen to YouTube.
Kind of like yourself. If I open my mouth, usually I've thought about something before I spout off. And in this case, it's the nature of the way these theories evolve. They evolve through what technically is called dialectical critique. And so each descendant theory, say if we use Marxism as the common ancestor, if you will, and that's what I did, by the way, in the EU, as I said, think of Marxism as a genus, and then you have all these species. Well, postmodernism is a species, but they evolve through dialectical critique. So for each new derivative that comes out, say postmodernism, they have to create themselves by giving a critique of the thing that they were before.
I disagree. I disagree that that's how Marxism works. I don't think you need to be a Marxist at all. Like, I'm not a Marxist. I mean, my values may align with Marxist but like Marxist doctrine, because it's a religion, right? Marxist doctrine. I might align on a lot of those, but I don't read any. Like, I haven't read any of it. It's just conclusions that I come to, right? So, like, I don't think a religion can be come to, like, you cannot find the results of a religion naturally through just looking at the world, right? What he's talking about and what these two are talking about is like, oh, Marxists, and usually what happens when Jordan Peterson talks about this topic is Marxism is all the stuff we don't like. It's woke, but really what it comes down to is once you the reason a lot of people are, I don't know, intersectionally woke is because, not because they're all Marxism, but because at the crux of a lot of those values is the same thing, and that is essentially a high ethical standard of humanism. We value, and I guess not just humanism, but like a broader ethical thing. It's not only anthropomorphic, because it's also like a respect for nature and a respect for the natural world and where we live. It's broader than that. It's not just fucking Marxism. You don't have to be a Marxist at all to be, I don't know, like, not a transphobe. You feel me? It's just empathy. Yeah, these aren't connected things. Like, a lot of people cross over, but it's intersectional. It's a Venn diagram, not a fucking taxonomy thing.
So they start by saying, here's where Marxism is wrong. And academics hyper-focus on these distinctions, and they say, look,
I see.
they
So
said,
that's what you think.
they say, just like you say, well, they say that they're Marxists. That looks like proof. They say, well, they said we're criticizing Marx. So that's proof that they're different. And the neo-Marxists are no exception. And you'll find
I see.
literal
So you
Marxists
think it's
today.
narcissism of small differences, to
I
use
do.
the Freudian term.
I do.
Yeah, so there's a level of analysis at which these, I think your genus and species metaphor is a good one. So there's a level of analysis at which these are all variations on a theme, and there's another level of analysis where they're distinctly different, which is exactly what does happen in academic microarguments.
Right.
So you think part of that's, well, I think part of it's just the attempt to sow confusion as well.
Oh, probably,
and
yes.
And then also ignorance on the part of the critics, because they just don't know enough about what they're talking about to even know that there's a relationship between postmodernism and neo-Marxism and Marxism. I guess the other issue too is that in
There's connections means they are the same. It's so funny.
principle, the postmodernists were skeptical of meta-narratives. And it does seem not unreasonable to point out that Marxism is a grand meta-narrative.
Yeah.
And so if you're skeptical about meta-narratives, you might start out by being skeptical about Marxism. And if you just focused on the postmodern critique of meta-narrative, then you'd say, well, it couldn't be allied with Marxism because Marxism is a meta-narrative. But my response to that would be, what makes you think that incoherence ever bothered a postmodernist?
Right.
In fact, they specialize in incoherence. And I think because it can sow discord and chaos most effectively.
This is why this.
It's interesting because it's hard to find like inconsistencies in left-leaning spaces until it gets to like, it's usually they have a personal caveat for one person gets to be, a piece of shit in some way, right? Like that's where the left starts to fight, is on these person by person basis. On the broad scale, we don't have like, this isn't what we're talking about. Did Jordan fucking Peterson of all people say that anyone else specializes in coherence? Well, that's what I'm talking about, right? Like I think for the most part, everyone knows the left's messaging, right? Like, at least on a social front. Certainly they don't understand. Capitalists do not understand leftist economic anything at all, of course. They're just fucking flapping in the wind. Because they can't understand, like, a lack of fucking markets ever. The pundits who laundered JP as an intellectual really should be ashamed of themselves. Oh, yeah, I mean, it keeps happening.
This metaphor, the genus species, is so important. And for me, this, Marxism is a grand meta-narrative, et cetera. This is almost like saying, imagine that the animal clade that we're talking about is something to do with cats, right? And so now we have cats, tigers. Well, tigers have a tail, right? And
wow, we're talking
lions, and lions have a tail, and house cats have a tail. So cats have tails, right? Well, not bobcats, not lynxes.
Right.
And so if we think of the tail as being a grand meta-narrative, in fact, the broad historicism of classical Marxism, you find both neo-Marxism or critical Marxism and postmodernism are becoming skeptical of this kind of grand trajectory of history narrative that was kind of the early modern thought. And as we shift from modern thinking to postmodern thinking, away from the scientific and into the kind of blatantly mystical and romantic, which the
What? He started this conversation talking about how to honor God.
postmodernists are wholly characterized by. You can just imagine it. It's a cat without a tail.
Yeah.
I see, if we do this, I said Marxism is economic and critical race theory is race, and we can say that queer theory is the concept of who defines what's normal. Postmodernism is really a Marxist analysis of who gets to say what things mean.
Yeah.
Who gets to define
meaning? It seems to me the fundamental core around which these concepts circulate is, well, one core is resentment and bitterness. There's an envy. There's no doubt about
an envy. So it's so weird when capitalists are like, you envy the billionaire. It's like, dog, I do not. I think a billionaire is unethical. The existence of billionaires is unethical. I do not want to be a billionaire. I don't want anyone to be a billionaire. I should not have $1 billion. Neither should that fucking guy. But it's not about the dollars. It's about what a billionaire is. It's about the accruing of natural resources all to one person for nothing, for not really doing anything except for giving investors money. Like, it's not actually what we should value in humanity. It's what capitalists value, and capitalists cannot get over this. They're like, oh my God, billionaires cause value. There's value. Look at the value. The numbers are going to the values there. And it's like, like, for instance, the value on Amazon went up because the ultra wealthy were able to undersell people that couldn't afford it and like maximize the like convenience and use slave labor along the way to give people who are already competing against each other for survival to get cheaper things for themselves. Like, it only works in its own system. That isn't a valuable human experience. Amazon is not a valuable thing for us. Amazon is only valuable under capitalism. I don't need 2-day shipping on anything unless I am constantly like we could figure out how to do this either ethically with human labor or not with it, but we don't, right? This is what I'm talking about. Like, you don't need 2-day shipping on anything. You want it. And that's totally different. This isn't hyper convenience is not a valuable thing, and because of the expense it has, and these people can't see past that. Like, GPA Boost is gonna come in here and drool fucking capitalism nonsense out of his goddamn brain. 4 fucking messages every 3 seconds, like. Fucking manic in my chat every time he shows up.
About that on the motivational front.
Yes.
But the other core.
Hey, chill. Hey, chill. Man, what are, like, why are you filling up my chat? You know, feel me? Like, why is it like that? Every time.
More ideological and intellectual would be the notion that every social interaction is best viewed through the lens of oppressor and oppressed. And so then you can do that with economics, which is essentially what Marx did.
I'll stop talking then.
But once you've established that pattern, well, it's all about victimization and power. So that I think it's
Victimization and power. It's not, man. It's not. The core of leftist has, like, those are all responses to the system in place. These are not the core of Marxist thought. Those are core responses to fucking, like, the iniquities of the system that they have to overcome. The core of Marxism would be just ethical equity for everybody. Like, you need everybody's survival necessities to be taken care of. That's what the goal is. The goal of society is to maximize personal well-being and minimize personal toil by collectivizing our resources and labor to try to do the best we can for everybody. And if within that system, because that, you know, it's a talk about unjust hierarchy. If within that system hierarchy naturally arises in certain areas, I use the LeBron James example. Like, the best basketball player is going to be the best basketball player. There are places in society where natural competition will arise, and people who are better or more adept at certain things will do that. But it doesn't have to be you don't have to stake your survival on that. That's a much healthier place to learn how to be a better person if your survival isn't staked on that. And you know, capitalists use like, oh, well, the businesses. Think of the goddamn innovations that we have with capitalism. You don't. You actually stifle innovation. It can be seen every time, because every time we actually have innovation, what it takes is people to have time and space to do it, right? They have to be able to do it and have the space to do it. And instead, what we have is the best way to innovate: the cheapest car or the next phone, because we can't just innovate on how to keep a phone relevant for a long time. No, we need the new thing, you know. It's about the cycle of consumer products. It's not about the efficiency of the system. Consuming for the sake of consuming is not a good system. That is what this system is. It has to. Everyone has to, in capitalism, infinitely be a part of consuming. Because if someone's not consuming something, then you're not getting paid. So you have to have something someone can consume. So the rest of us all have to consume as well. But really, how does that work out? Like in your house, like if everything's copacetic in your community, do you need to constantly consume things? Not really, like food, but like not really. Like if you have one thing that lasts a long time, you keep it. And that's how it is for a lot of people. And it's not just about products and stuff. That's just like one thing. One small aspect of it. What am I looking at here? You scoured his clip? All right, I'll look for it.
It's actually the same claim that it's like a neo-Christian claim that emerged out of the Middle Ages, because there was a doctrine in the Middle Ages among some strands of Christian thinkers that the secular world, the earthly world, let's say, was the domain of Satan himself, right? It was ruled by the prince of power. And I think that's exactly what the Marxists claim, except they're, are they in favor of that or against it? It's very difficult to say. But their fundamental claim is something like all human relationships can be understood through the lens of power and oppression.
Man. Not in practice, man. I mean, it's the same thing as saying, like, technically, any sort of philosophy bro shit. Not in practice. No one like really thinks like that. And that's only in situations where like power structures even butt up against one another. Like, it's really not how Marxists think about the world. You're very hung up on like on like, I don't know. You're talking about like a fucking super broad analysis of Marxism and how they talk about power structures and the interactions. I take it you saw Jordan talking about call me cis in real life. Yeah, but he blocked me.
I mean, that's Foucault in a nutshell, right?
Yeah,
because his whole theory is that everything is carceral power. Every time I say that word, I have to stop and tell it. It means prison.
Yeah.
Incarcerated is the derivative for.
Wow, cool. Yeah, we knew that.
Yeah.
For people. But
for people.
It's all about
He's such a dumbass, dude. He's so stupid. He thinks he's a smart guy, and he's like tell me stuff I know about
carceral power. So these sects that you're referring to in the Middle Ages of kind of bizarre Christianity were actually Gnostic heresies that were developing. And I think that actually by means of Hegel coming down through Marx, who inverted it, I believe we actually are looking at a Gnostic heresy that got hidden inside of economics and social. In fact, if we read Phenomenology of Spirit from Hegel, 1807 is a publication, you get distinctly the sense that what he means by spirit is what he says he means by spirit. It's a spirit of society. It's a social phenomenon. It's kind of the seed of sociology in a sense. And this social spiritual realm is, for Hegel quite literally, because he was a heretical theologian, is the working of the Holy Spirit in the world.
God, these people are fucking stupid. The Holy Spirit.
It's not this, transcendent third person of the Godhead. It is this. It is the functioning of human beings in the collective.
They're not talking about anything now.
And how that's moving through history. And so if we relocate as a modern transformation of kind of this heretical Christian Middle Ages, almost New Age movement of the time, mystical movement of the time, we have a very clear.
Say something nice. James Lindsay being here makes me appreciate Jordan Peterson's contributions to the conversation. I'm just like, man, can we go back to Jordan?
Your shift from the transcendental to the social universe, representing the spirit. And so then Marx, he actually figures out the code. He says, no, Hegel's got it upside down. We focus on the idea, and the state will follow, and the spirit will follow the state. And he said, no. And then the spirit will sublate and raise to Aufheben in German, and raise to a higher level, and we'll have a new idea, and blah, blah, blah. That's his Trinity cycle, his dialectical cycle for Hegel. Well, Marx says, no, it's upside down. We start on the ground. We do the work. We do the praxis. Do the work is the modern phrasing. We do the praxis. We do the activism. And we change society directly. And then that will cause, as society changes, what he called the inversion of praxis, the social conditioning to rain down on people and actually reify the transformation of societies.
Okay, I'm wondering why they disagree with that. Because it seems pretty obvious that they know that that's true. Because that's how they act with education and stuff and church and the kids. You know what I mean? Like, they know that you can like shape society by acting collectively in certain ways, huh? Wow. Pretty highbrow stuff Marx got there. Wow. Look, I mean, if you're big into Marx, like, hey man, cool. I don't know. That's not a very hard idea to come by. It's fucking 2023, man. We don't have to appeal to the 1800s. We could just talk about how society is pretty obviously like what we ought to do. It seems pretty clear to me. Take people's survival out of the market. That's it. You start there, then we can start chipping away at the rest of it. But if you pit people's survival against one another, they're going to fucking harm each other. Always. You're going to create power struggles. Hulking funboy. Thanks for following. You have the police. You have fucking like gangs in reaction to the police that are good. My meme ideas are broken and stuff in a loop. Oh no.
So this, I think, is where Marx had inverted Hegel, and this is where we have a shift from the pre-modern transcendental spiritual to the modern social spiritual. And this just becomes the playground of romantics and eventually the postmodernists who throw up their hands and say this whole thing is just this, gigantic dynamic of power to where if you and I converse. I mean, at one point, I remember maybe 10 years ago, some feminists, it didn't go very far, but they posited this very postmodern argument that there was no possibility ever for a woman to consent to sex with a man because there's always a patriarchal power dynamic. So there's always, no matter what, no matter how much, she says she's interested or whatever, there is always her being coerced.
So 10 years ago, in 2013, you heard a fringe feminist opinion, and now that's what you think fucking feminists think. And you think that that's a reasonable way to be. Wow, very fascinating.
So this is, I think, kind of this.
He got his opinion on that out on 2013. He was never willing to hear about it again. He's like, nope. There's millions of other fucking feminists out there. They're like, yeah, women can consent to sex. And he's like, nah, I don't want to hear it. One person said different. They argue different. Well, most people don't feel that way, dude.
Huge shift. And you say, academics get mired in these micro distinctions. Yeah. And that is partly their job. So okay, fine. But
it's also how they carve out territory, though.
There is an incentive structure there. Yeah. Yes. But this is it's so important to realize that if we don't take a step back and understand this bigger picture, that this is a fundamentally theological architecture.
I like knowing exactly where
I like having ads in the middle of my theological talks. Blah, 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 moink, go get your best food ever. Blah, blah, moink box, go get a moink box. How fucking amazing is that? Oh, yes, let's watch these two men on their moink box.
/JBP. That's fast.com/JBP.
Moink box! Wow!
Well, we could even go back farther than that.
Fucking cynical, dude. I can't imagine a world without capitalism. Gotta scrape every dollar off the ground. Please give me $1. God, fucking whores, dude. They're just fucking sluts, man. It's like, please give me $1. Oh, $1. God, I can't believe being so fucking cucked by a system you invented. Like,
I think so. You tell me what you think about this. This is a set of ideas that I've been working on more recently. So, I mentioned earlier that you could think about Marxism in two ways, and the new Marxist variants that we've been talking about, you can think about them as expositors of the doctrine of power, that every social relationship between human beings can be understood as a function of domination and compulsion. So that would be marriage, that would be friendship, family, economic relationships, history itself.
Yeah, I would fundamentally disagree with that, but only in that it must be. I wouldn't disagree with that in that it often is that way. Okay? If I don't know what the actual wording is with Marx, but what Jordan Peterson said is that pretty much every interaction has like a power dynamic to it. That's only true in some circumstances, but it's more true in this system than it ever would be in a freer one. One of the worst things about Peterson is he ignored his patients when they would call they would get a voice box mail asking them to donate to his legal defense for his license. Amazing.
Every single social relationship. Now that has
crazy.
the advantage of extreme simplicity.
Yeah, I mean, that's only true a little bit in some ways, but like under capitalism, you quite literally rent your life, your body, your sweat, your blood to humans during your time laboring. And while you are laboring, you have fewer rights than you do when you're not laboring. You literally have fewer rights. You have to be there. You have to follow certain rules. You give away rights, 8 hours a day or more or fewer, and you, in exchange, get dollars so that you can stay alive. Does that sound like freedom? You have to do this. You have to pick one. Whereas in a freer society, right, survival is taken care of by the collective because we can provide that. Your survival is taken care of. So now what you choose is what you want to achieve, right? What interests you, what your community needs, what is incentivized by your community to need. Like, I don't know, we need trash guys. Okay, well, these guys are going to be able to have nicer stuff. You know what I mean? Because we pay more for that. Like, whatever communities end up feeling like they need more of is what's going to be valued by the community, and you will see your life improve. I mean, it's pretty easy stuff. They just cannot get over. Nobody gets life for existence. They just exist and be alive for free. It's like, bro, we're not in the fucking agricultural revolution anymore. We can provide everyone a quality of living. And if you do, think of where society could go. You no longer are pay-gating a large swath of the population out of higher education because they couldn't afford it. Yeah, but there's a reason, too, because this is where the Marxism comes in, because some people, not all, there are some interactions in this system that have come to love their power dynamic. They have come to love the hierarchy because they are at the top of it, and they do not want it to change because they are kings. America is a failed experiment. We can do better. The Founding Fathers failed. They installed kings. And the way to become a king was to have the most dollars. More dollars and you become a king. They literally have private militaries. They have private compounds. They have more fucking value than some whole states and international states. Like, it's ridiculous. They created kings. In a totally free society, absent constraints. Only if you accept that framing. That doesn't make any sense. We are in society because we want to maximize our well-being. And no one has to have a gun to their head to make that happen. You do not have to ransom people's well-being to maintain a thing. This is easy. You can. I mean, this is true psychologically 100%. That positive incentivizing is how you get people to cooperate. And if you just threaten them instead, they'll try to figure out how to get the thing they need just barely to get by. And that's what you have in jobs. Yeah.
And so even if you're not very bright, you can understand it. It's comprehensively explanatory, so that's attractive on a psychological front. And then there's a nefarious element, and the nefarious element is that, well, if it's all about power, then not only am I thoroughly justified in my use of power, because after all, that's just what you're doing, but it also justifies any accusation possible, because you might come up with a claim, for example, that you're a proponent of free speech. And I can easily say, well, no, like as a white colonialist benefiting from the privilege of your position, you just use the argument that such a thing as free speech exists to justify your position in the power hierarchy.
What? Nope. Leftists are all for free speech. It's not about being anti-free speech. I don't know where the fuck this comes from. Leftists are for freedom, to have freely express whatever the fuck you want. You can absolutely do it.
Right.
And that's a universal criticism. And so then I can take anything that you might claim as positive and just transform.
See, it's just these men being triggered because people are like, no, you're wrong, and it's hurtful the way that you are to people, and it's bad, and no one should like you. And they're like, no, that's my free speech. It's not. It's not your free speech. If there are some parts of your government that you disagree with, well, you're the people that want this kind of system to be in place, not fucking me, dude.
It with intellectual jujitsu into a manifestation of the power drive, and it's fair to say that the drive to power is a human motivation, but it's not the only human motivation.
It's not the only one, that's right.
And it's also fair to say that when social relations are corrupted, they become corrupted in the direction of power.
How do social relationships get corrupted under capitalism? I'll tell you, it's the pursuit of capital more often than not.
But that's a completely 100% different proposition than the claim that all human social relationships are predicated on power. I mean, you mean all, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I know where. Okay, so.
I mean, I fundamentally disagree with that. I do think that there's a reality that, like, our human relationships, when we live underneath this capitalist state, are subject to the powers that be, and we are, in fact, we're threatened by force of violence to take part in capitalism. we have to. There is no opting in. There's no freedom of choice in this whatsoever.
So there's the power claim, but then there's this undercurrent of bitterness and resentment. And I see this system of ideas that's playing out as an extension, actually, of the battle between Cain and Abel.
Yes.
Because,
Jesus
okay,
Christ.
so why yes?
This bitterness, this envy. There's the very devout or devout maybe is not the right word, but the very obedient Abel, and then he has these advantages. Cain gets very upset.
Yes, well, that's
and comes to murder him. This is, I think, exactly the motivation. And this is, how do they proceed? So if we take seriously the concept that this is a Gnostic heresy, and you look back, whether it's Jews pre-Christ.
How did you come to that conclusion that it was a Gnostic heresy? Because I didn't know you had pursued this all the way back into the religious realm.
Well, I stumbled on a recommendation onto a philosopher named Eric Voegelin, who's got quite the reputation for having named Marx as a Gnostic. And then I went down a rabbit hole reading about Gnosticism and reading about Hegel and his relationship to this kind of...
Hey, Jake, want to let the audience know the goofy-ass interpretation of the Cain and Abel story that JVP has? Yeah.
mystical reinterpretation of Christianity, Glenn Alexander, McGee, Eric Voegelin, these analysis. I read a little bit of
Do I want to let them know? I mean,
Evola, not a big fan of Julius Evola's writing, but I read a little. He makes these claims quite strongly as well. And then I just started to read the Gnostic texts myself and the Hermetic texts. And so I stumble. I mean, I've been claiming for a decade that this is a religious phenomenon,
it is.
posing as sociology in some phenomenon or some fashion. But this is what really finally allowed me to put it together. And it doesn't matter. Gnosticism is, by its nature, parasitical. It's that we have discovered through whatever means, divine, revelation, whatever it happens to be, the secret salvific knowledge that they don't want you to know. So there's some higher truth that's hidden, and maybe there's a code written in the Bible.
I mean, I don't think capitalists want people to know anti-capitalist theory, personally, yeah, I think that's probably true. You can tell on how they fucking react. They're like, well, how you even gonna, what do you mean? What do you mean? Ain't nobody don't do capitalism around here. Huh? Everybody does capitalism. Yeah, we're forced to fucking do capitalism. You were forced. Hello? Nobody does. Really? Nobody? You ever spent time with people and not charged? You know? It's a thing. We always do it. We do this all the time. You have a community, you interact with our capital regularly. It's a whole total thing. You don't have to stake our survival in capital. If you want to have markets, if you want to do a little social capitalism, you want to do little markets for your tacos and your shoes, sure. But consumerism will die slowly over the course of time because people will, as their survival has taken part, right? Now they choose jobs that they don't need, they want. And so the jobs that people want are going to help their communities, and they're not going to be fucking working at JCPenney, selling people fast fashion in the last fucking spot in the mall that isn't dead, right? Like, that's not a thing people will value in the long term. So I don't mind if we take stepping stones. Your capitalism will lose eventually, and you'll have small pockets where, of course, people want to be compensated for however. And whatever you want to do, you can have little units. I don't care what the fuck it is. You're going to have some form of way to count labor spent until you're over it, right? But for now, because we're cultured under fucking capitalism, we always have been, we cannot. We have to demand that our labor is counted. Otherwise, our survival is at stake. So yeah, I understand why all of us are very consumed by that.
That if you have the secret means of divining it, then you can determine what the Bible really means. And when you go and you talk to the priest, and the priest says, no, that's a heresy, they turn around and say, he just doesn't want you to know that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which, when you say it goes back to Cain and Abel, it goes back further than that. It goes back to the serpent and Eve. God hath not said. You've got this emblem of all authority.
Every time, dude. Do you think it's possible for conservatives to not speak of God and fairy tale shit ever? Do you think it's possible?
That has declared this thing. Then you have the subversive element that comes in and say, was that really said?
So it seems to me that this is a way of conceptualizing the relationship between the religious and the...
Well, it's not coached. It's his speech. He's just delivering his speech again.
Philosophical and the sociological. So if you delve deeply enough into the battle between two idea sets and you keep going down, as you go...
It's coached in the same way that, any conversation like this would be.
Down to more and more fundamental layers, you approach the religious, because the religious is by definition the most and I'm offering a definition here that religious is by definition the most fundamental. And so I think when you're looking at...
It's not. Religion is not fundamental. What is fundamental, more fundamental than religion? Reality. Reality is the fundamental function by which Marxists make their opinions, okay? Reality. Good Marxists. Not religion, not conceptual thinking, actual lived experience, real life, material wellness is the goal.
Something like the culture war that's going on, you can see it as a battle between ideas, but then when you trace the ideas back, you see it as a battle between narratives, and when you trace the narratives back, you see it as a battle between fundamental narratives. And as you approach the most fundamental narrative, you are treading on religious grounds.
Yes.
So what happens in the story of Cain and Abel, of course, is that Cain makes second-rate sacrifices.
Right.
And he knows they're second-rate. And because they're second-rate and he's not all in, his sacrifices aren't accepted. And that's just a phenomenological truth.
Because he's not all in on sacrificing. The capitalist hoarders that don't want to pay their fair share. Even though neither of them, maybe Jordan, would be taxed accordingly. You know what I'm saying? And that's only under capitalism. I don't actually want to take the wealth of anybody, necessarily, right? But if you force people to survive via wealth, then yeah, I do. You know what I mean? If people are going to die if they don't have your wealth, then yes, you should just give them your wealth. That's obviously true, right? You can have some of it. You're still going to have more than most people at the end of the exchange. The greed is just unreal. But I earned it. Did you? You were given it. It does not mean that you have earned it. At a certain point, it's just bribes, man, by the kings that own the world.
Truth, which is life is so difficult that unless you make the proper sacrifices, you're not going to succeed. And then he calls God out on that, says the cosmos is constituted in an ill-gotten manner because I'm not successful. And God basically says, well, if you did things right, things would work out for you. And instead of Cain accepting...
That's not how capitalism works, though. That is not how it works in this system at all. And Marxists are quick to point that out because they're right. And again, I don't really count myself as a Marxist. I don't read theory on this shit. I don't fucking care about Marx at all. Sorry, lefties. Marxism is cool or whatever, but I don't consider myself... I'm not affiliated. Only in that we have crossover belief systems. But I mean, like... I don't read it. I've read the stuff I had to read in college to read the stuff. I read the little bit of the bread book. Like, there's nothing that I hinge. I don't look back on those guys to find my fucking beliefs. Like, they're also like part of the fucking people that I wouldn't want to. I probably like to think that I would even like Marx is probably a stretch. I probably wouldn't even fucking like that guy. He had a servant. Like, nah, he drank a lot. I'm good. He had a cool beard. Yeah, I mean, fuck it. I don't give a shit. $1. Because I had to. It's JP. Also because I need 30-second break. Okay, 30-second break. Thanks for the two.
With all due seriousness, we must understand that even those quite possessed by the spirit of Cain that attracts and drives confused and lost people to the Luciferian ideologies are, in the ideal, fully redeemable and only partially consumed.
Rejoice, children of Nod, the blood of your oppressors will flow, and 50 years of tyranny will finally end. Transformation is coming.
That is corrective information. His countenance falls, so goes the story, and he flies into a murderous rage and destroys his own ideal because he really wants to be Abel.
Right.
And then the descendants of Cain become... He's murderous, Cain, obviously,
Yes.
because he kills Abel. And then the descendants of Cain become genocidal. Right. So the way the biblical narrative essentially opens, because Cain and Abel are the first two real human beings, right? Because Adam and Eve are made by God. So the biblical narrative portrays the battle between the spirit of Cain and Abel as the fundamental battle that rages in the human heart. So it's the battle between the spirit of...
Yeah, but it's all made up. It's not real. None of that's real. It's all fake. This isn't actually our creation reality.
proper sacrifice.
So funny that we read the physics paper before this.
Which is what Abel represents. The spirit of improper sacrifice, that's Cain, and the cascading consequences of improper sacrifice. And then a metaphysical battle between those two spirits that characterizes, well, that's when history starts, right? So that's the central battle in history.
That's not when history starts. History started with Herodotus.
And I think of Marxism as, I think the French Revolution was a manifestation of the spirit of Cain, and that that Marxism itself is a manifestation of the spirit of Cain, and then the postmodern enterprise that's besetting us now, another manifestation of the spirit of Cain. And it's the proclamation. I don't exactly understand the relationship between that and the claim that it's power that's the ruler of all things, but
how can you...
I do know that...
Power that's the ruler of all things. Wow. What do you think rules anything? Like, what? Yeah. The hierarchical structure of the world is what controls it. How is he confused? Two whippets?
The spirit of Cain is indistinguishable, say, in the biblical corpus, from the spirit of Satan, and Satan is
Cardi B's whip shots.
The satanic ruler is definitely the ruler that uses power and compulsion and deception to control everything.
Okay, I really want to see if they stop talking about religion, but I got like one more section in me before I just pull the cord on this one. Let's see.
I mean, I think your connection that you're looking for
Make me
boils
interested.
down. I mean, Foucault gives us the hint, right? Everything is a prison, this carceral power. So what is power in this analysis? It's the power to compel, to extort, to extort, to force behaviors, to paraphrase Larry Fink. And so...
Right, no kidding.
Yeah.
To paraphrase Larry Fink and his bloody black rock.
If we take this Gnostic concept seriously, the Gnostics believe that there is an all-good, transcendent God behind everything that's so good that he's completely pure spirit, completely uncorruptible.
Yeah, that's bananas, stupid, dumb shit. That's like little baby brain stuff.
And therefore, anything material must not be of that. It must be, in fact, evil. And so, where did it come from?
Is he arguing that Marxists deny material goodness?
And they've got a mythology for it, but it doesn't matter. This character called the demiurge comes into being through a series of kind of cosmic accidents.
He's not saying it right now, but he's implying it down the line of this thinking, right?
Pleroma, as they call this. And the demiurge comes from the Greek demiurgos. Demiurgos means artisan or builder. He's the architect of the world. So he builds out the world, but in fact, he's a demon. And so he builds out the world as a prison. So God in Genesis, in Genesis 3, with the fruit, has imprisoned Adam and Eve in the garden. And the snake is saying, did you know? He just doesn't want you to know that you're like him. This same system, this is what Cain's rejecting. He's giving his second-rate sacrifices. He's not doing what he should. God's telling him if he does what he should, things will work out. And he's like, no, this system's corrupt.
Right, exactly.
And so this is the same
Yeah,
pattern.
he calls God out on his misbehavior, essentially.
That's right.
If you don't think that's a sin of pride, there's definitely something wrong with the way that you're thinking.
Right. And so I think that this is ultimately the Gnostic motivation.
It must have been, I wonder if it's as surprising for you as it is for me that this is the rabbit hole that you've ended up going down. You know, I had no idea when I started investigating these theories that, you know, that the root consequence of that investigation would be to move down levels of analysis into the religious domain. So I did start to understand that as you move down levels of analysis, you inevitably end up in the religious domain.
It's so funny that from conservative points of views, they're wondering how their thinking led to the religious domain. Well, I broke it down through my right-wing point of view, and I eventually find that religion is at the core of it.
Because the religious domain is the deepest level of analysis.
Right.
It isn't. Reality is the deepest level of analysis.
So, but has it surprised you that you're sitting here talking about Gnosticism, for example, while trying to diagnose the ills of the modern world?
Yes, it has surprised me. It's very curious as well, because I was this character. I had this, it cuts through every human heart, as Solzhenitsyn very eloquently put. I was this character. I was a very frustrated academic, and I think it's typical. What is the most common, I mean, maybe there are others, but one of the more common psychiatric disorders that academics complain about is imposter syndrome, right? I've got this degree, but if I'm actually stupid because the PhD earning process is quite difficult, and you're always surrounded by people who know far more than you do, who remind you of it on a daily basis. And so you end up with this massive amount of imposter syndrome. I'm not really good at the thing. I'm not as good as they think I am, this kind of delusional complex. And rather than taking the certification and saying, well, okay, I've earned this. And so you have this baseline where you like Marx, what do you do with your
He's not a doctor.
time? You dig into some area,
He's a mathematician. He doesn't have like a doctorate though, right? He doesn't have a PhD, does he? He's a mathematician, but
finally see the secret,
like a master's,
truth nobody else saw within that. And I'm just talking as an impulse. I'm not getting religious yet. And you see this, and then you write and you write and write, and 7 people read it. Nobody cares. And you start to think to yourself, why am I not getting career advancement? Why am I not getting the accolades? Why isn't society, or if you're Marx, why isn't everybody else just paying my bills? Don't they see how important my social theory that I'm writing is? So
paying my bills, dude. This is crazy stuff. It's not about paying the bills. I don't want, they always frame it like this. Well, if I pay your bills, who's going to pay my bills? It's not about you using your money to pay the bill. You wouldn't have a power company still. Why are we allowing companies to own our water? Hello? Oh my giddy aunt, these two are drier than Ben Shabibo's poor wife. It's pretty obvious they don't understand just any fucking thing about how Marxists, or fucking just leftists in general, think about the world. Like, the state, the collective group that exists together actually has the resources necessary to take survival off of your plate. You will not have to worry about survival. We have it in place. Okay? We have all we need to shelter you, to feed you, to make sure you have water, to make sure you have hygiene and health care. We have all of it. What we however, instead pit everyone against each other to earn those things because the richest among us specifically benefit from the society structure, right? Because they get to be billionaires and have, kingdoms. Literally. Is that a system you like? Do you want people to be able to be kings? Why? Why do you want that? Because you're someday going to be a king? That isn't a noble goal. It's a greedy one. To be a king, you must have subjects. Is it ethical to have subjects? Why not simply no kings? Or queen? Sure, you can be a girl boss billionaire.